Some stories begin with sparks, others with quiet looks and words left unsaid. Mine began with silence, the kind that lingers in the night when the world is asleep and you wake to something, or someone, that changes everything. My name is Daniel. For a long time I thought life was simple, predictable. I believed love only appeared in certain shapes, the ones society neatly packaged and handed to us. Then came James, my best friend since high school. That quiet summer night, he stepped into my room. He wasn't supposed to. He wasn't supposed to blur the lines or shake the ground I thought was solid, but he did. And that night changed both of us in ways we never expected. This is our story. The night was heavy with warmth. One of those slow summer evenings when the air barely moves. My window was cracked open, the curtains drifting gently with the rare breeze. I had fallen asleep early, worn out from another long day at the construction site where I worked part-time. My dreams were vague, fading quickly when I felt it, a shift in the air. The floorboards gave a soft creak near the door. My eyes opened. James. My voice came out rough, still tangled in sleep. James? He stood there, his tall frame outlined by the faint yellow glow of the hallway light. His hair was messy, his white t-shirt clung to him, and his gray sweatpants hung loose. He looked unsure. "Hey," he said quietly, like he didn't want to break the silence. "Sorry, I didn't mean to wake you." I pushed myself up on my elbows, rubbing my eyes. "It's fine. What's going on?" James and I had been friends for years. We met back in high school after he transferred from another state. James was the kind of guy everyone liked. Funny, easygoing, straight to the point. Girls crushed on him. Guys wanted to hang out with him. Me? I was the quiet one. The artist. The kid who sketched in the corner while the rest of the world kept moving. Somehow, though, he and I became inseparable. But this was different. He had never come to my room this late before. He shifted uncomfortably, his gaze drifting everywhere but at me. Couldn't sleep. Thought maybe, I don't know, maybe we could talk. I patted the edge of my bed. Sure. He sat down, the mattress dipping under his weight. I could feel the warmth radiating from him even though we weren't touching. It was strange. Suddenly I was hyper-aware of him in a way I hadn't been before. "You okay?" I asked. He hesitated. "Yeah, just stuff on my mind, I guess." We sat in silence, the quiet broken only by the faint hum of a street lamp outside. Then in a low voice he spoke again. "Do you ever feel like you don't know yourself anymore?" I turned to look at him, searching his face. His expression was guarded, eyes fixed on the floor. "What do you mean?" I asked. He shrugged, letting out a long breath. "I don't know. Lately I've been thinking about things, stuff I never questioned before. Like who I am, what I want." There was weight in his words, something raw and unpolished. My chest tightened. I thought I knew James, or at least I believed I did. "You mean with relationships? With girls?" I asked carefully. His eyes flicked to mine then, searching, uncertain. Maybe. Maybe not just girls. The words lingered between us, heavy and unspoken. My pulse quickened. James had always been straight, or at least that's what I believed. He dated girls, had crushes, joked about locker room stuff like every other guy. But now, sitting on my bed in the middle of the night, the air felt charged with something different. I swallowed hard. "What are you saying, James?" He dragged a hand through his messy hair, frustration in every movement. "I don't know, man, I keep thinking about you, about us, and it's confusing the hell out of me." The words hit me like a tidal wave. "Me?" My voice cracked. My chest tightened, thoughts spinning. Part of me wanted to push for clarity. Another part was too afraid. James stood abruptly, pacing the small room. "Forget it. I shouldn't have said anything." "James," I said softly. He stopped, shoulders tense, hands braced against his hips. His back was to me, but his voice carried raw honesty. "I'm serious. I've been trying to figure out why I feel different around you. Why I don't know. Wanting to be near you more than anyone else. It's messing with my head." I rose slowly, stepping toward him. "So, What do you feel when you're around me? He turned then, and for the first time that night, our eyes locked. There was something unguarded in his gaze, something I had never seen before. I feel safe, he admitted, like I can breathe. Like I don't have to be the guy everyone expects me to be. His words cut deep, because that's exactly what I felt with him too. The silence stretched again, heavier this time. The only sound was the faint chirping of crickets outside. Then, almost too quietly to hear, he said, I don't know what this means, Daniel, but I don't want to lose you. My chest ached. He didn't realize he couldn't lose me, not even if he tried. You won't, I said firmly. We stood there in the soft glow of the hallway light, two friends balanced on the edge of something neither of us fully understood yet. That was the night everything changed. The next morning, sunlight spilled through my window, painting golden streaks across the floor. The room was quiet, broken only by the faint hum of traffic outside. James was gone. It wasn't like him to leave without saying anything. I sat up slowly, last night's conversation replaying in my head like a broken record. The way he looked at me. The things he said. I keep thinking about you. I feel safe with you. I don't want to lose you. They were words that burrowed deep, the kind you couldn't unhear once spoken. I pulled on a t-shirt and headed into the kitchen. James was there, standing by the counter, pouring himself coffee. He looked worn down, like he hadn't slept at all. His hair was still messy, his t-shirt wrinkled, but it was the way he stood, shoulders tense, jaw tight, that told me he was lost in his own head. Morning, I said carefully. He glanced up, managing a faint smile. Hey, I leaned against the counter, crossing my arms. You left pretty early. Yeah, he said, eyes fixed on his coffee like it held all the answers he couldn't find. Needed some air. I studied him for a moment. This wasn't the James I knew. Normally, he filled the morning with jokes, teasing me until I caved into laughter. But now he was quiet, withdrawn. You okay? I asked finally. He nodded, then shook his head. I don't know, man. The crack in his voice made something twist in my chest. About last night? I asked softly. His brown eyes lifted to mine, searching, like he was trying to read what I felt before daring to speak. Yeah, he admitted. I didn't plan to say any of that. It just came out. I nodded slowly. And do you regret it? His gaze dropped to the floor. No, that's the problem. I don't. The words settled between us like dust drifting in sunlight, soft but impossible to ignore. We spent most of the day pretending things were normal. James helped me fix the squeaky back door. We grabbed lunch at the diner like we always did. We even joked about the upcoming local baseball game. But beneath the small talk, there was a current between us now, subtle, electric, unspoken. Every time our shoulders brushed as we reached for the ketchup, I felt it. Every time his eyes lingered on mine a little too long, I felt it. And I was pretty sure he felt it too. That evening, we sat on the porch watching the sun sink behind the trees. James leaned back in the old wooden chair, arms crossed behind his head, looking more relaxed than he had all day. You remember senior year? He said suddenly. I smiled faintly. Yeah, hard to forget. You carried the whole basketball team on your back, he smirked. And you sat in the stands sketching instead of cheering. I cheered. I protested under my breath. He laughed. Easy. Warm. The sound of the old days before things grew complicated. Then his expression softened. That was a good year. You were always there, you know. Even when things at home were rough. I looked at him curiously. He didn't talk about his family much. I knew his dad was strict, his mom quiet, the kind of house where feelings stayed locked away. Of course I was there, I said quietly. You were my best friend. He grew quiet, eyes fixed on the fading sky. Sometimes I think you were the only one who really saw me, he said at last. Something about the way he said it, so open. So unguarded, made my chest ache. James, I whispered, I still see you. Our eyes met, and once again the air between us shifted. heavy with something we couldn't name yet. Later that night, he came to my room again. This time, he knocked first. "Hey," he said, leaning against the doorframe. He looked uncertain, like he was standing on the edge of something big and didn't know whether to step forward or turn away. "Hey," I replied, setting my book aside. He stepped in, hands shoved into his pockets. "Can we talk?" "Sure." He sat on the edge of my bed, the same spot as the night before, but this time there was no awkward silence. He looked straight at me. "I've been thinking all day," he said, "about what I said. About us." My heartbeat quickened. "Okay." "I don't know what's happening to me," he admitted, his voice low. "I've never felt this way about a guy before. About anyone, really. It's like you're in my head, and I can't shut it off." His words were raw, stumbling, like he was piecing them together as he spoke. I sat down beside him. "James, it's okay to be confused. You don't have to have it all figured out right now." He looked at me then, really looked, like he was seeing me for the first time all over again. "That's the thing," he said. "When I'm around you, it doesn't feel confusing. It feels right, like this is where I'm supposed to be." My chest tightened. We sat there, the space between us shrinking with every passing second. Then, so softly I almost missed it, he asked, "Do you ever wonder what it would be like if things were different between us?" I swallowed hard. "Yeah," I admitted. "I do." His shoulders relaxed, like he'd been holding his breath, waiting for my answer. And in that moment, with the soft hum of crickets outside and the faint glow of the lamp casting shadows on the wall, I realized we were both standing, at the edge of something that could change everything. That night, we didn't cross any lines, but the way he looked at me before leaving my room told me it was only a matter of time. The next few days felt like living inside a storm cloud. Not the kind that tears through towns, leaving destruction behind, but the quiet kind, the one that builds slowly, rumbling in the distance, filling the air with a charge you can almost taste. James and I moved around each other like always, grabbing lunch, watching movies, shooting hoops in the driveway, but underneath nothing was the same. It couldn't be. Not after the late-night talks. Not after the lingering looks. Not after the words we both left unsaid. One evening, we ended up at the lake. It wasn't planned. We were just driving aimlessly, windows down, music low, when James said, "Let's go to the water." We haven't been there in forever. The lake had always been ours. Summers as kids spent fishing, swimming, lying on the dock at night, watching stars scatter across the sky. It felt like the one place that still belonged to us. By the time we got there, the sun was melting into the horizon, staining the water in shades of orange and gold. James parked the truck and we sat on the hood watching the colors shift. For a while, neither of us spoke. Then softly he said, "I feel like I'm living someone else's life." I turned to him. "What do you mean?" He kept his eyes on the water. "All my life, people told me who I was. The straight guy, the athlete, the one who had everything figured out." His jaw tightened. "But that's not how it feels inside." "Not anymore," I listened, my heart pounding. He ran a hand through his hair. "And then there's you. You've been here through all of it. And lately, I can't stop thinking, what if the person I want doesn't fit into the box everyone put me in?" The wind carried his words across the water, quiet but heavy. I swallowed hard. "And do you know what you want?" He finally looked at me then, and the air between us shifted like it always did. "I think so," he said softly. Something in his voice made my chest tighten. We sat there until the sky turned dark, the air cooling around us. The only sound was the soft lapping of water against the shore. I wanted to ask him what he meant. I wanted him to say it out loud that maybe, just maybe, he felt what I felt. But I didn't push. Because sometimes the words you don't say are louder than the ones you do. That night back at the house, it happened. Not the confession, not yet. But something close. I was in my room sketching when he came in. No knock this time. You ever feel like you're about to jump off a cliff? He asked suddenly. I set my pencil down. Sometimes. Why? He paced the room, restless. Because that's what this feels like. You, me, whatever this is. My pulse quickened. He stopped pacing and turned toward me. His eyes were dark, stormy, like he was standing on the edge of something he couldn't control. I don't know how to say this without screwing it up, he said. Say what? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. That I can't stop thinking about you, he said finally. That maybe I don't care what box people put me in anymore. The words crashed into me like waves. James. I started, but he cut me off. No, listen, he said, his voice shaking. I've been trying to fight it, to tell myself it's just confusion, that it's just because you're my best friend. But it's not going away, and I don't want it to. My heart pounded so hard I thought he could hear it. He ran a hand over his face, frustrated. James's voice trembled. I don't know what this makes me, Daniel. I just know that when I'm around you, everything feels right. And when I'm not, it doesn't. The room seemed to shrink, the walls pressing closer. I rose slowly and crossed the space between us. James, I said softly, you don't have to label it. You don't have to figure it all out tonight. His eyes searched mine. Then what do I do? I drew a shaky breath. Start with what you feel right now in this moment. He looked at me like he was finally ready to say the words, ready to leap off that cliff when the front door slammed downstairs. We both froze. His sister had come home early. The moment shattered like glass. James stepped back, raking a hand through his hair. I need some air, he muttered before slipping out of the room. And just like that, the confession hung between us, unfinished but undeniable. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. Because even though he didn't say the words, I already knew what they were. 2 days passed after the almost confession. 2 days of James barely meeting my eyes. 2 days of conversations that felt too light, too careful, like we were pretending nothing had happened. 2 nights of me lying awake, wondering if we'd missed our moment. By the 3rd night, I couldn't take it anymore. I found James on the porch. He was sitting on the steps, elbows resting on his knees, staring out at the dark yard like it held all the answers. The porch light cast a soft glow over him, outlining the curve of his shoulders and the sharp line of his jaw. He didn't look up when I sat beside him. You've been quiet, I said softly. He shrugged. Got a lot on my mind. The crickets filled the silence between us. Is it about the other night? I asked, his jaw tightened. Yeah, we sat there for a long moment before he finally turned to look at me. His eyes were dark. Serious. I'm scared, Daniel, he admitted. The words caught me off guard. James never admitted fear. Not about sports, not about fights with his dad, not about anything. Scared of what? I asked gently. He exhaled slowly. Scared that if I say this out loud, nothing will ever be the same. That I can't take it back. I studied his face, the way his fingers twisted nervously together. Maybe some things aren't meant to be taken back, I said quietly. He looked at me then, really looked, like he was searching for something in my expression. And whatever he found there must have given him courage, because his voice, low but steady, broke the quiet. I like you, Daniel, more than a friend. Maybe I've liked you for a long time and just didn't let myself see it. My heart thudded in my chest. He kept going, the words spilling out like he'd been holding them in for too long. When I'm around you, it's like everything makes sense. Like all the noise in my head finally shuts off. And it scares the hell out of me because I've never felt this way about anyone before. He ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. I don't know what this makes me. I don't even care. I can't keep pretending I don't feel it. The night air felt heavy, weighted with everything unspoken between us. I didn't speak right away. I couldn't. My chest felt too full. Finally, I whispered, James, you have no idea how long I've been waiting to hear that. His head snapped toward me, eyes wide. You what? I nodded slowly. I like you too. More than I ever planned to, more than I thought I could. For a moment, he just stared at me, as if he needed to be sure he'd heard me right. Then a quiet laugh slipped out, and he shook his head like he still couldn't believe it. We sat together under the porch light, the air thick with the weight of everything finally said aloud. It felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, but this time, neither of us was stepping back. When James finally spoke again, his voice was low. "So, what now?" I smiled faintly. "Now we stop pretending. We didn't kiss that night." But the way he looked at me before we went inside, like he was memorizing my face, like he was seeing me for the very first time, said everything words couldn't. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could finally breathe. The next day felt different. Not in dramatic ways, but in quiet ones. The brush of his shoulder against mine when we walked down the hall. The quick smile he sent me across the table when no one else was watching. The way his hand lingered just a little too long when he passed me a coffee mug. Small gestures that carried so much weight now, because of everything we had finally admitted. That evening, we found ourselves back at the lake. The water was still, reflecting the moonlight like a sheet of silver glass. We sat on the dock with our feet dangling just above the water, the night air cool against our skin. James stayed quiet for a long time before finally speaking. "I don't know where this goes, Daniel. I've never done this before. I don't even know what I'm doing." I turned toward him. "You don't have to have it all figured out. We can take it one step at a time." He nodded slowly, as if weighing the words. "Yeah," he murmured. "One step at a time." When our hands brushed on the dock, neither of us pulled away. And that was the moment I knew. We were crossing the line from friendship into something else. Something real. Something terrifying. Something worth it. The days after James's confession felt different. Not in the way movies make it seem, with dramatic music and sudden changes, but in the quiet ways. The way he leaned a little closer when we talked. The way his laughter came easier, like a weight had been lifted. The way he looked at me when he thought I wasn't paying attention, like he was discovering me all over again. It was new. It was terrifying. It was perfect. About a week later, one evening, James showed up at my door. He had that look on his face, the same one he used to get before basketball games, when he was nervous but ready to throw himself into it anyway. "Hey," he said softly. "Hey," I replied, setting down my sketchbook. He stood in my doorway for a moment, like he was gathering every bit of courage he had. Then he said quietly, "Come with me." We ended up at the lake again. It had become our place, the only spot where everything seemed to make sense. The moon hung high, spilling silver light across the water. The air was cool, carrying the scent of pine and damp earth. We stood on the dock without speaking for a while. Finally, James turned to me, his expression serious. "I've been thinking," he said, his brow furrowed, "about us. About what happens next." He paused, shoving his hands into his pockets. "I don't want this to be just something that happened one summer. I don't want to look back and wish I'd been braver." My chest tightened. He stepped closer, his voice low but steady. "I want to know what this could be, Daniel. I want to see where it goes." The words struck deep, filling a space inside me I hadn't even realized was empty. I swallowed hard. "Are you sure?" He nodded. "I've never been more sure of anything." His eyes locked with mine, and for the first time, there was no hesitation, just honesty. That was when it happened. He reached for my hand, slowly, like he was asking a question without words. I didn't pull away. Our fingers intertwined, and it felt right. Simple. Like this was how it had always been meant to be. We stood there on the dock, the cool breeze brushing against us, the water lapping gently below. And then finally he leaned in. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't nervous. It was steady, warm, certain. Our first kiss was soft and careful, as if we were both realizing in the same moment that we had just crossed into something we could never take back, something we didn't want to. When we finally pulled back, he smiled, that real smile of his, the one that reached his eyes. "Yeah, he whispered. That feels right. I laughed softly, my chest lighter than it had been in years. It does. We sat on the dock after that, shoulders touching, hands still tangled together. And for the first time since the night he'd first stepped into my room, there was no confusion, no fear, just us. In the weeks that followed, we figured things out slowly. We told a few close friends. We spent time together without labels, without pressure. We let it grow naturally. Some people were surprised. Some didn't understand. But none of that mattered. Because for the first time, we weren't hiding anymore. One evening, as we watched the sunset from the porch, James turned to me. His voice was quiet, thoughtful. You know what the best part is? I raised a brow. What? He smiled gently. I didn't just fall for anyone. I fell for my best friend, and he was right. Somewhere between the late-night talks, the almost confessions, the quiet moments on the dock, and that first kiss beneath the moonlight, we stopped being just Daniel and James. We became something more. Something real. Something worth everything it took to get here. Looking back now, I realize that night he first came into my room wasn't the start of something messy or confusing. It was the start of something honest. Something that showed us love doesn't always arrive the way you expect, and that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stop pretending you don't feel it. James and I, we didn't have all the answers, but we had each other, and that was enough.